You got to give Bernie Sanders credit for taking one for the team over and over again.
Based on her ideas and her leadership, Hillary Clinton must become the next president of the United States.
He took the stage last night in prime time to make the case for Clinton, even after leaked emails showed some DNC officials conspired to derail his campaign. Many of his supporters aren't quite as forgiving. Listen to what happened this morning when the Vermont senator addressed the California delegation.
Elections come and go. In my view, our immediate task, what we must do or forever look back in regret, is defeat Donald Trump and elect Hillary Clinton. In my view, it's easy. It is easy to boo, but it is harder to look your kids in the face who would be living under a Donald Trump presidency.
Swaying those restless progressives has also fallen on the shoulders of Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren, who had a prominent role in last night's program as well. This morning, Massachusetts delegates gathered at their daily breakfast. One Sanders supporter said this outreach is having an impact.
I do think that last night made it a little easier. I do think that last night gave me a lot more to think about in terms of a candidate that's going to be a strong Democratic nominee against Trump and has a lot of things that we can agree with.
Well, that's one. Joining me from the convention is Molly Ball. Molly writes great about politics in The Atlantic. Molly, it's good to see you.
Hi, Jim. Great to be here.
So yesterday started with Debbie We Hardly Knew Ye Wasserman Schultz getting booed at the Florida delegation. It ended with Michelle Obama, Elizabeth Warren, and Bernie Sanders making pleas for unity. Is the conventional wisdom that the latter three made significant progress?
Yeah, I think as you heard from the delegate there, the Bernie or busters are always going to sort of be defined by their loud, angry fringe because they are the most overt in expressing this never Hillary idea. But there clearly is a softer core of Sanders supporters who are persuadable. We see in the polling that in the larger universe of former supporters of Senator Sanders in the primary, 90% of them are already planning to support Hillary Clinton. Now, I do think that the protests here at the convention call into question where the enthusiasm lies. It is clear that the most ardent and passionate and enthusiastic people in this convention hall are the strongest supporters of Bernie Sanders. So he is making progress, bringing them into line. I think the Clinton campaign is very pleased with his efforts. It will never be enough for some people. The question is, will it be enough for enough people?
Are the Clintonites worried about the roll call tonight? Does that give a venue for the hardcore Bernie people to do their thing all over again?
Absolutely. In the next hour here, we will see the roll call vote unfold on the floor. We didn't actually know that there would be a roll call vote until Senator Sanders announced it last night in his speech. I think that was a significant thing that he wanted to show his delegates that they did have a voice in this process. You even hear from some Sanders delegates who believe that they could win that roll call because Hillary supporters will magically change their minds. I think that's highly unlikely. But the roll call will ratify, for those who believe that in the rules and that this process has been fair enough to trust, that Secretary Clinton is in fact the nominee. Will that quiet some of them, or will there be some who persist in insisting that because of things like the emails that the nomination was stolen from them? I think there will always be that hardcore few.
So, Molly, the theme in Cleveland, I think it's fair to say, was law and order. You'll be safer and lock her up, I guess, was part of it. What was the theme in night one of the Democrats?
Well, interestingly, you mentioned the theme of the night was unity. It was really, with the exception of Michelle Obama, most of the big voices were Bernie-type voices. They were progressive left voices. The Elizabeth Warren speech, of course, a Clinton endorser, but someone who very much speaks to the progressive left. The Bernie speech, many of the other earlier speeches in the evening, Sarah Silverman putting down the Sanders supporters, but being a Sanders supporter herself. So I think the intent it was to have the theme of that night be progressivism and unity and coming together behind Hillary Clinton. I don't think it's entirely mission accomplished, but it's an interesting contrast, as you mentioned, the Republicans pointing out today that not a single speaker on the first night of the Democratic Convention mentioned the Islamic State.
Yeah.
And so there's a real de-emphasis on these issues of national security, terrorism, crime, and I think it's clear from the bump that Donald Trump got out of his convention that those themes do resonate with a lot of Americans.
Is anybody worried about Bill Clinton, whether the good or the bad Bill Clinton's going to show up tonight? The good, of course, was the guy who made, I think, a better case for Barack Obama in 2012 than Barack Obama at his own convention. The bad, of course, is the guy who criticized Black Lives Matter, the guy who said some protesters amongst Bernie Sanders types, you're toast. Is there worried about which one of those guys takes the stage tonight?
Absolutely. And I think every time Bill Clinton walks out on stage and opens his mouth, a lot of Democrats sort of cross their fingers and hold their breath, because even in 2012, when he did give that sort of master class in explaining stuff, as he put it, he wasn't on script for much of the time. He went a lot longer than people expected. They've given him practically a whole hour tonight because they understand that tendency of his. But, you know, anyone who's seen Bill Clinton on the stump for Hillary this year has noticed that he seems to have lost a step. He seems to be getting older. His performances are inconsistent. Sometimes he has that old fire. Sometimes he kind of rambles. So I'm very interested to see in his speech tonight whether he's got the old Bill Clinton magic, and then whether he can give a speech that isn't, you know, the wonky explaining stuff speech, but that is intended to be an emotional and personal testimonial on behalf of his wife as they try to soften her image here at this convention.
Okay, Molly, before you go, did Paul Simon sound any better in the hall than he sounded on television last night?
Oh, I hate to say it, but no.
Molly Bowles, great to see you. Thanks so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Jim.